Completely overhauled for 2025, the new Trek Top Fuel represents the fourth generation of the platform. Having started out as a pure XC race bike, the Top Fuel has evolved over the years with a steady increase in travel that's expanded its all-round capabilities. Nowadays it slots into the hazy middle ground between the Super Caliber race machine and the Fuel EX trail bike. Blurring the lines even further, the latest Top Fuel boasts more adjustability with the option to adapt its geometry, wheel size and even travel thanks to its unique 4-position Mino Link. So what's it actually like to ride, and how does it compare to its predecessor in the competition? Well, I've been riding the new Trek Top Fuel over the past few months to find out. The Trek Top Fuel features an entirely new frame for 2025. While the overall shape remains the same, every tube has been slimmed down to reduce weight. According to Trek, the new Top Fuel weighs 2.41 kilos for a bare carbon frame including the shock, and that grows to 2.6 kilos by the time you add paint. It certainly isn't the lightest in its category, but unlike some of its competitors that use a flex-stay suspension design, the Top Fuel features a genuine 4-bar platform. The ABP design is well proven, and it's been updated here with a touch more progression and a bit more anti-squat. There's also a new, lighter 2-piece rocker link that's joined together via a splined axle to minimise twisting. The Top Fuel otherwise retains its 120mm of rear travel, and it comes from the factory with a 130mm travel fork. You'll find 29-inch wheels on all frame sizes except for the small, which features 27.5-inch wheels front and rear. Where things get a little more interesting is the nifty 4-position Mino Link. Found at the lower shock mount, this chip offers a high and low geometry setting which modifies the angles by half a degree and changes the BB height by 6mm. You can also flip the chip forwards or backwards to change the leverage rate. In the forward position, it delivers 14% progression, which is similar to the old Top Fuel. In the rearward position, progression increases to 19%, providing more ramp up at the end of the stroke. Furthermore, you're also able to modify the amount of travel. While the Top Fuel comes fitted with a 50mm stroke shock, it's possible to extend that to 55, which boosts rear travel to 130mm. The frame is also rated for 120 to 140mm travel fork, and you can even set it up as a mullet. That opens a heap of options for bike setup, which I'll discuss in more detail in a bit. The new Top Fuel also features updated down tube storage with a larger opening. There's a refined hatch with a tighter and more weatherproof seal, and the cables are tucked further up out of the way to minimise snagging. Geometry on the new Top Fuel remains relatively unchanged, which is a good thing. With the Mino Link in the low position, we've got a 65.5-degree head angle. And on our medium-sized test bike, a 76.9-degree effective seat tube angle and a 447mm reach. The rear centre lengths vary throughout the size range, starting at 435mm on the small and going up to 445mm on the extra large. Dropper post insertion has been improved thanks to a straightened seat tube, and with the exception of the small, every frame size comes with 170mm travel dropper post as standard. There will be 5 Trek Top Fuel models coming into Australia this year, and prices are going to start at $5,500 Australian dollars for the Top Fuel 8, which is the only model to feature an alloy frame. Our test bike sits one step up from the bottom. This is the Top Fuel 9.8 GX Axis, and the current retail price on this is $9,000. It comes with a RockShox Pike Select Plus fork and a deluxe RCT Ultimate shock. There's a SRAM GX Axis transmission, level bronze brakes, a Bontrager Line Comp alloy wheel set and 2.4-inch tyres with a Gunnison on the front and a Montrose on the rear. Confirmed weight for our Trek Top Fuel test bike is 13.14 kilos, and as usual, that is without pedals and with the tyres set up tubeless. Out on the trail, and the aspect that immediately stood out to me was the compliant ride quality. The new Top Fuel is noticeably smoother compared to the previous version, exhibiting less deflection and better damping across rocky terrain. In speaking with the engineers at Trek, it turns out this was something of a happy accident. The primary objective for the new Top Fuel was to reduce weight, which was achieved by moving to smaller diameter tubing inspired by the latest Super Caliber. During lab testing, early samples showed lower stiffness values than the team was originally aiming for, but out on the trail they were pleasantly surprised by the additional flex that proved to be beneficial to the bike's handling and overall ride quality. That's been my experience too, with the Top Fuel delivering fantastic grip and comfort for a short travel bike, no doubt aided by its supple tyres and excellent suspension. It feels similar to the latest specialized Epic Evo, though it is considerably less pingy compared to the Scott Spark and the Canyon Lux Trail. Now, despite the smoothness, the top fuel is still responsive and zippy. I've been really impressed by the efficient suspension, with the shock offering a nice platform that allows it to sit high in its travel. There's excellent power transfer when you're mashing the pedals, but I appreciate the Trek hasn't gone overboard on anti-squat, which is claimed to sit at just under 100% at sag in the lowest gear. This minimizes drivetrain feedback when pedaling across lumpy trails, and it also boosts traction on technical climbs. Along with a steep seat angle that places you in a commanding position over the cranks, you're able to comfortably sit and spin your way uphill. The top fuel also responds well to out of the saddle heaving for conquering trickier features. The stable suspension maintains its dynamic ride height, resulting in very few pedal strikes when getting over bigger ledges. And with plenty of grip on tap, you're able to scamper up climbs quickly and effectively. While most riders will be happy with the top fuel's stock setup, there's plenty of scope for tweaking the suspension to your preference. The shock's low-speed compression dial offers a meaningful change between its 3 settings. For smoother single track, switching it to the plus setting firms up the platform considerably to provide a snappier feel at the pedals. My local trails are quite rocky and loose, however, so I generally preferred using the softer minor setting. This improves small bump sensitivity, and it provided a better match with the supple pike up front. A couple of rides in, I also decided to try the Mino Link in the progressive setting. You only need a 6mm hex key, making it an easy change to perform on the side of the trail. Now, this setting increases the starting leverage rate from around 2.6 to 2.8, and I had to add an extra 10 psi to maintain the same 28% sag. The extra pressure increases support deeper into the travel, thereby reducing the chance of bottoming out. This worked well for me, though since the shock comes fitted with a linear air can and no volume spaces from the factory, there's plenty of options for boosting progression further if needed. With the flip chip and compression adjustments dialed in, I found the suspension on the Trek top fuel to be smooth and highly reactive. There's still a nice platform, and I found it to be plenty efficient during concerted bursts at the pedals, but the back end is more sensitive over rocks and roots compared to the stock setup. I have to say that the new Pike is fantastic too, offering a real improvement over the previous version. Updated with a new air spring, the Charger 3.1 damper and improved bushings, it is considerably more active overall. It swallows up harsh impacts with incredible composure, and it does a great job of absorbing smaller vibrations despite the stiff carbon bars and firm grips. Paired to the compliant carbon frame, the sensitive suspension soaks up rubble effectively and comfortably. There's minimal deflection through chunky rock gardens, and the top fuel tracks smoothly through rough off-camber corners. The supple Bontrager tyres conform beautifully to the terrain, enhancing the bike's overall damping qualities and generating excellent traction across loose trail surfaces. And if you do overcook things and need to wash off speed, the ABP platform does well to maintain traction under braking. It keeps the rear end feeling fluid and active on rougher descents, allowing you to push with more confidence at higher speeds. Indeed, the well-tuned suspension design represents a key point of difference for the top fuel over flex-stay bikes like the Lux Trail and the Spark. Now, as for downsides, I found it hard to find fault in the top fuel, which I reckon delivers a great balance of efficiency and control for a 120mm travel bike. Like a lot of capable short travel rippers, it can get out of its depth on chunkier terrain. It's possible for the shock to get overwhelmed by repeat rapid-fire impacts, and there is occasionally some feedback through the drivetrain. Solutions lie in the ability to extend the travel by 10mm at both ends, and fitting a slightly larger 32-tooth chainring would help to mellow out the anti-squat. Now, it's worth pointing out that you can set up the top fuel in its long travel configuration using the existing fork and shock, and that means it isn't a hugely expensive upgrade and there's no real increase in weight. I've just made those changes to our test bike, and we'll be following up on the results in an upcoming long-term review. Coming at things from the other direction, and riders who are looking to mix it up with some marathon and XC racing may be disappointed with the overall weight and the lack of a fork lockout. In this regard, bikes like the Spark and the Lux Trail offer a more race-ready package thanks to their remote-controlled suspension. Providing you're not bothered by remote lockouts, however, it is possible to set up the top fuel for XC duties. Out of curiosity, I fitted a 120mm travel RockShox SID, a Zip 10 high-top wheel set, and Maxxis Recon race tyres. This dropped the complete bike weight down to 11.9 kilos, and it made a massive difference to acceleration and overall rolling speed. Again, I'll be diving into those changes in the long-term review, where we'll be comparing the top fuel to the best XC bikes on the market, including the Super Caliber. Now, when it comes to the top fuel's competitors, I've spent a load of time on the Scott Spark, the Giant Trance 29, the Canyon Lux Trail, and the Pivot Trail 429. More recently, I've been riding the latest Specialized Epic Evo, which was also overhauled for this year. It features the same amount of travel as the Top Fuel, but the way it goes about things is quite different. The Epic Evo features the same frame as the Epic 8 race bike, albeit with a 130mm travel fork and a bigger float shock. It features a flex stay suspension design and a tidy layout that means it can fit 2 bottles, and it's also quite a bit lighter than the Top Fuel. Now, if you're keen to know more about how these two bikes compare out on the trail, I've put an in-depth comparison in the full review over at flowmountainbike.com. I've gone into a lot more detail about sizing, fit, and suspension setup in that review, and there's also a heap more info about the performance of the components on our 9.8 test bike. Just click the link in the video description below if you're keen to check it out. As for our verdict on the new Trek Top Fuel, well, put simply, this is one of the best short travel trail bikes I've ridden. It's efficient, has great geometry, and its capable suspension package means it's ready to tackle a broad range of riding. While it might not look all that different from its predecessor, subtle changes to the frame construction have yielded benefits in the form of improved compliance and tracking across rough terrain. Combined with the supple tyres and the ABP suspension design, the Top Fuel delivers fantastic grip both up technical climbs and down high-speed descents. Sure, there are lighter bikes in this category, but few can offer the same level of versatility thanks to the nifty Mino Link and the adaptable suspension. I'm really looking forward to spending more time on the Top Fuel, both in a lighter XC build and in its longer travel configuration, so stay tuned to the Flow website for the upcoming long-term review. Now, if you've got any questions for me in the meantime, make sure you drop those into the comments below. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time. Tooroo!